Okay, now this is a session of the nationally determined contribution. The simple history of national determined contribution is the following. In 1992, the climate convention was signed and there was an urge to reduce the emission across the world, and the rich countries, the industrialist country, was asked to do so, and that was under the Kyoto Protocol. Then the industrialist countries complained that many of the rich developing countries or the rapidly developing, emitting developing countries like China, India, Brazil, South Africa are not included, so they don't want it to be part of Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol had to be given out. Then the concept of nationally determined contribution came, where every country will express voluntarily. That's what was the intended INDC intended part, and that's what was done historically. And the Paris Agreement had taken into consideration, and in Paris Agreement, the idea was to keep the temperature below 2 degrees and preferably at 1.5 at the end of the century. So that became the obvious reason, and every country has been asked in 2015 to submit their intended national contribution. That became the national contribution. Bangladesh did the same and is our national determined contribution. Now, every 5 years, the idea was that every 5 years, there will be review for enhancing and expressing higher ambition. This is where we are now, and we are expressing higher ambition for not only just Bangladesh being one of the poorest, most vulnerable country, has no obligation, but still we are being globally responsible. Similarly, many other countries are doing so, and every country has to submit their INDC or NDC strengthening. Next, please, Arif. Arif, can you go next? The Paris Agreement is the legal framework for the NDC, and it is connected to the countries and intentionally determined contributions. As I said, go ahead, Arif. INDC transform NDC and ratifying the agreement, and we have the NDC enhancement in 2020. That's where we are now, and this is the reason. What we are trying to do in Bangladesh NDC is to raise our climate ambition under the 4 heads. The 4, I just mentioned the heads. Provide the GOB with representative baseline, prepare the mitigation potential for 2030. So our immediate objective is 2030. That is the objective of the SDGs as well. Support the drafting of technical language for the government. So submit to NFC and ensure agreement of the key stakeholder, include everybody and get everyone. Next, please. Arif, next, please. Yes. And the scope of work, we don't want to have time to go detail into it. So basically to build the potential and ownership and review all this alignment and various sectors, incorporate additional sectors, and we'll see immediately what sectors we are taking, and assess the cost and the opportunity, and monitor progress in a participatory and transparent way. Next, please. Arif, next. Yeah. So the overall approach and methodology is given here. I won't have time to go into detail, but there is a rigorous methodology from the IPCC, and the methodology is well established. More or less all countries are having it. Next one, please. Our 3 sectors were the power sector, transport, and industry sector. That was between 2015 to 2020. That's what we did. And on the question of agreement, now agriculture, forestry, and land use has come as a package, and agriculture has implication to food security, water security, and many other issues. And of course, the waste management, waste sector as a whole. So these 5 sectors is what we want, and that is where we are trying to go, and our discussion is around it. I think just to say that we will follow up the discussion from here. This NDC is done by 6-7 partners in Bangladesh, and the C3ER Chief Advisor Ainun Nishat will now make his comments on the whole National Adaptation Plan and adaptation along with NDC, National Determined Contribution. Thank you.
Thank you, Atiq. Atiq just mentioned that we are 6 partners working together. ICCCAD, BCAS, C3R, and then we have Brac and IDCOL. And we have CGIS is in lead, and they are kind of coordinating all the activities. So the responsibilities of the organizations have already been distributed. I would like to explain one point, that why IDCOL has been taken in as a partner, because the TOR requires that we come out with bankable projects or the financial aspect of developing mitigation projects and also adaptation projects, and therefore how the financial proposal and other things are being would be prepared by the client, that is the government organization and private sector and others. That is where we come in. Now the Brac University's unit called C3R, Center for Climate Change and Environmental Research, we are especially mandated to talk about adaptation and mitigation. Now this is quite interesting. How come adaptation comes to be discussed under mitigation? The reason is simple. In Cancun in 2010, when world was pushing for a global standard on greenhouse gas emission or the level of temperature that may be allowed to rise, obviously there was demand on mitigation, and each country being sovereign, you cannot impose a target, and countries had to come out with their own proposition. That is why it is called nationally determined contribution. But in that discussion, there was also a question raised that if we have global standard on mitigation or temperature, there should be global standard on adaptation also, because it is very difficult to have some kind of global standard on level of adaptation, and adaptation is also related to finance. In the finance in the GCF, there's a big fight going on, because from the G77 countries, LDC countries, AOCs countries, we demand that adaptation and mitigation should be treated equally. So even we are talking about mitigation, we should have some understanding on what level of adaptation is going on in a country. To give an example, as for example, in the coastal belt of Bangladesh, we have 5-meter high coastal dikes. Maldives does not have any dike, or many other countries do not have proper dike system. So for finance, generating some kind of global standard, we need to understand adaptation. And that is why it was said in the NDC document, there should be a chapter on adaptation. Now, while we started to work on the Bangladesh document, we also reviewed the NDCs submitted by a number of countries, and we also found that they have a small section summarizing what sort of activities on adaptation. Having said this on intro, I would like to make 2 points and then stop. One, what is the linkage between adaptation and mitigation? We often say mitigation is the best form of adaptation. Lower down the greenhouse gas emission and the temperature rise possibly would be under control. But there are certain activities which can be common both for mitigation and adaptation. So this is one point. And second point, what we are doing on adaptation in the country in general, including finance. What is the country's take on this? The best example where the activity can be both common for adaptation and mitigation. At one point, we used to hear 2 words, which we don't hear much nowadays, admit and mit-add. If a project has a lot of mitigation component and a small amount of adaptation, it was mit-add. And if it had a lot of adaptation, but it had also some mitigation benefit, it was admit. And mitigation means reduction of production of carbon dioxide gases or sequestration of the greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide, which is possible through afforestation program. Now we can, in Bangladesh, we push for coastal afforestation. On academic points of view, if we can have 2-kilometer wide green belt along the coastline, it will help us to lower the height of the storm surge at least by 1.52 meters. That would be a great thing, because as the height of the storm surges are gradually increasing, we need to have a green belt. And government of Bangladesh has already taken a position that wherever new chore land comes in, new sandbar comes in, it will be immediately placed under Forest Department for afforestation. And large afforestations are coming up in the areas near Bhola and Hatia and Shondip and south of Noakhali. We also need to have good afforestation programs south of the Sundarbans, or on the eastern side of Sundarban, south of Bagherhat and Borguna and Potuakhali and Noakhali and these areas. So this is, to us, is an adaptation project to reduce the fury of the storm surges and the cyclonic weather. On the other hand, this would also sequester carbon, so it can be placed both on mitigation and adaptation. Currently, Forest Department of Bangladesh is preparing a proposal for getting funds from Green Climate Fund, Global GCF, and this is being shown as an adaptation project. And this would be a grant project. On the other hand, government has a project funded by World Bank, which is a loan project called Shufal. So half of the coastal belt would be covered under Shufal, the other half hopefully would be covered under the proposal that is being developed by Forest Department. And development of GCF proposal is kind of complex process, and we are trying to fulfill all the requirement of GCF, and we are hopeful of getting a grant on this. There could be similar benefit on afforestation and wetland for afforestation and adaptation. As the cyclonic weather or the tornadoes or inland storms are also going to increase, the height of the waves in the Haors of Bangladesh, they have a local term called afal, they are going to be more furious and more violent. Now, historically, in those areas, there were wide belt of wetland forest with Hijol and Koroch.
Professor Nishat, if we could close
1 minute. One minute, okay.
Thank you.
So that would also help to control the erosion process. And we are also talking about afforestation along the river bank to cut down on the river erosion process. On the adaptation, the first document Bangladesh possibly prepared collectively was the NAPA in 2005, and that was updated in 2009. It had limited application. It allowed only one project to be taken up. But then we went for BCCSAP, Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy and Action Plan in 2000. First drafted 8, but finalized in 2009. And the second version is almost ready to go. And then the government is very keen on adaptation, and every year the finance minister in his budget speech or statement, he calculates how much the government is contributing on adaptation. So with support of UNDP, there are some calculations done how much Bangladesh is autonomously spending money on adaptation sector. And as I said, there is linkage between adaptation and mitigation. And finally, I would like to say that we are very keen to interact with GCF, and we need to build a lot of internal capacity to access fund from GCF, and the process is same from adaptation and mitigation. So I think in all, these are the points we'll summarize in our NDC document, which is under development. Atiq, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nishat. We appreciate the perspective that you have given. It's vitally important because to Bangladesh, the highest priority is adaptation, and there is a linkage, as you rightly pointed out. To all the speakers and the guests, our time is very limited. We have sadly given everybody just 6 minutes, and we are pleased to say that We have the 6 organizations here, but also we have the 2 distinguished delegates or participants from the government of Bangladesh, from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Is Joint Secretary Sanjay Bhowmic is there, so he will, at the end of the our presentation, institutional presentations, he will make a short comment and introduction on their perspective. And finally, we have got the Director General, Department of Environment, who is also the project director of the NAP, National Adaptation Plan, Dr. A.K.M. Rafique Ahammed. So it is our pleasure to welcome them as well, and they are here. So thank you very much for coming. My next speaker is Malik Fida Khan, from the Executive Director of CGIS, and he would be talking for 6 minutes on implementing the NDC, the various implementation aspects. Is Fida there? Fida?
Sir, Dijan Bulshi, Malik Fida Khan has regretted he cannot access internet right now, so we can go for the next speaker.
Okay, if he comes along, please do indicate to me. He will get a slot. But
we'll let you know.
We'll go ahead for our next speaker, Mr. Liakath, who is the director of Brac CCP, and is going to talk a little of their part of the NDC, which is on climate change, community resilience and communication. Over to me, Dr. Liakath, please. Liakath aছেন? Liakath?
He's
Yeah,
speaking,
please.
but you should
Unmute করেন.
unmute. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. NDCs are at the heart of Paris Agreement. NDCs effort by each country to reduce national emission and adapt to the impact of climate change. The Paris Agreement requires each party to prepare, communicate, and maintain successive nationally determined contributions that intend to achieve. Brac is very happy to be a partner to prepare the very important document for the country as a constituent member. Probably all of you know or aware that Brac is a leading non-governmental organizations within the country as well as in the world, and it's started a journey in 1972. Brac has formed a unique system to contribute to poverty alleviation, in which it creates opportunity for the poor by equipping people with the right tools and creating opportunities so that they can realize their potential. Approximately 135 million people have benefited so far from Brac's services. Brac works both at the ground level, that is with local communities. Brac also works with the policymaker, for which we have an advocacy wing separately in the central level. We have presence at Union Upazila district level, and we have a district focal point in every district. In the formation of the NDC, we'd like to work at both levels. Let me elaborate our thinking on involvement with the local communities. Local communities can play a big role in local level, reducing carbon dioxide or greenhouse gas emission. Local communities in Bangladesh are already being sensitized on tree plantation because trees can sequester carbon. The government social forestry program is operated through the local communities. In this regard, species selection is very important. If we can select, or you can encourage local community to push the trees to absorb higher amount of carbon, it would be welcomed. All plants do not sequester carbon at the same level. The trees that grow slowly, especially the fruit-bearing trees like mango, jackfruit, and blackberry, their carbon sequestration value is very high. We shall also encourage to local communities as much as plantation as possible around the homestead, in public places like mosque and school grounds, along the roads and rivers and canals. In the process, we will also guide them in selecting the species depending on the soil characteristics and the soil salinity, and also the water availability. A tree that would be suitable for drought-prone area would be not different from a tree suitable for coastal belt. We will also encourage the local communities to preserve the trees resources. Often they have to cut down the trees either for their domestic use or for the fire purpose. Through NDC, we would like to encourage them to replant suitable trees as soon as possible. On the other areas, where both the policymakers and the local communities will encourage to follow the recommendations of the NDC. For example, the local communities will be encouraged to use energy-saving fuel-efficient stoves, which is already supported by a GCF-funded project. Brac is also support local communities, which can be a major support in this aspect. Similarly, in terms of supporting the solar home system, you know, in Bangladesh, the dimension and magnitude of the solar system, home system so far built is huge. So probably the country largest density of solar system. Solar irrigation, you know, especially in the dry season, huge fossil fuel is burned for irrigation. So solar irrigation could be an alternative option. And also we can use, or you can communicate to the people the usefulness of solar-based water treatment plant in a special location where electricity is not available. Another sector is integrated crop and livelihood system, which can result in reduced methane emission as well as better irrigation water efficiency. The selection of right technology and their appropriate maintenance will be a major issue. So through NDC, BRAC would like to support in this aspect. To sum up, we can bring the issue of afforestation, reforestation, integrated farming, and energy-saving cooking stoves and energy-saving lighting device as the major input to the NDC. There is no single quick fix or technology silver bullet that will reduce the greenhouse gas emission that are altering the Earth's climate. Rather, a range of technologies and strategies will need to be found to keep the global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius. I like to end with an example that BRAC has done. For BRAC building in Noakhali, we have done a carbon foot study. So we are going to publish this report very soon. And also, we ban use of plastic bottle, one-time plastic bottle in entire BRAC in Bangladesh. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Liakath Ali. That's an excellent perspective of sustainable development technology combining with NDC, how we are going to move ahead. Thank you very much indeed. Could I speak, Dr. Saleemul, Director of ICCCAD, on NDC perspective on accountability and transparency, other aspects of it? They're one of the partners in ICCCAD. Over to Saleem, please.
Thank you very much, Atiq, and thank you, BCAS, for kindly organizing this event on the national development contributions of Bangladesh. Let me just say a little bit about the global significance of this rather than the national actual NDC that Bangladesh is doing. Globally, as you know, this is something that was mandated under the Paris Agreement for all countries to submit their revised NDC. They originally submitted the first intended nationally determined contribution. It had an I before the NDC at the Paris Agreement in Paris in 2015 in COP21. That did not go far enough. It was taking us, if you added them all up, it would take us to around 3 degrees, but we want to go down below 2 degrees and reach 1.5 degrees. So all the countries had agreed in Paris that 5 years from then, by 31st December 2020, every country would submit a revised NDC in which they should increase their ambition to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. So mitigation pledges and plans were mandatory. Adaptation was optional. But as we have heard already, many countries have included adaptation. Even though it was optional, it has become the majority of countries have included it. But mitigation is the essential requirement. Now, many countries had thought that they would submit it by COP26, which was supposed to be held in November 2020 in Glasgow in Scotland, but that got postponed by a year to November 2021 this year. Hopefully again in Scotland, we'll be able to go there. But the postponement of COP26 does not allow postponement of the NDC. And so the Climate Vulnerable Forum, which is currently chaired by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh, launched a campaign, advocacy campaign called Midnight Survival 31st December, asking all countries to fulfill their commitment to submit NDCs by 31st December 2020, which was the deadline that countries had agreed to. And given that the Climate Vulnerable Forum was asking all countries to do that, we also asked the Climate Vulnerable Forum countries to try and meet that deadline if they could. And that is why there was pressure to come up with a quick revision of the old NDC while we work on more details later on. So we have not lost the opportunity, but Bangladesh did put in a submission on time, as did quite a few of the Climate Vulnerable Forum countries. The reason for doing that was not because our emissions make a big difference. They don't. Everybody knows that. Also, we don't have a moral obligation to reduce our emissions. We don't. However, if we want to get everybody else to do it, then we should also do it ourselves. So we cannot preach and not practice. That is not an effective way of doing advocacy. And so the effort that we did to submit by 31st December has actually bore a lot of fruit. A lot of countries submitted their NDCs. Some of the very key NDCs that have come in from China, European Union, have been very significant improvements. They have all gone to net zero by 2050. So the measurement is how fast they can go to net zero. The United States, as we know, under Trump had withdrawn. Today, in a few hours' time, we hope President-elect will become President Biden. And one of the first things he will do within hours of being sworn in is he is going to get the US to re-enter, rejoin the Paris Agreement, and the US will also submit their own NDC very soon after that. And we are expecting a net zero target of at least 2050. Incidentally, California has a net zero target of 2045. So California is ahead of many other countries, and California by itself is the 8th largest economy in the whole world. So they are significant. Anyway, so that is the global situation. We are now the champions of all countries doing NDCs. That's why we also have to do a good NDC, and hopefully we can also enhance our ambition in a practical way, not to force us into doing something we should not do or that would hamper our development, but nevertheless something that is tangible and useful. And I'm very happy to be part of the consortium under the leadership of Dr. Atiq Rahman and CGIS, working for the government of Bangladesh under Dr. Rafique, the DG DOE, and supported by UNDP. We have a very good team across government, non-government UN agencies in Bangladesh, and I'm very hopeful we will do a good, excellent NDC for Bangladesh going forward. Thank you very much, Atiq.
Thank you, Saleem. I think that's a very good way of looking at the global perspective and being the dimension as we have it. Just one point we made that UNDP is not only a partner, was a stimulant in the NDC system in many countries, and we are working together very closely, so we are grateful to them. Now, may I request the financing NDC from IDCOL representative, I think it's Ashraf Hussain. Am I correct? Ashraf, you are there? Or is it Pavel? Enamul Karim Pavel or Ashraf, whoever is presenting, whoever was available. I think there was a little problem there, who is available. Can I?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Ashraf?
No, sir. This is Abdullah Al Matin. I'm representing IDCOL on this forum.
Okay, great. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. IDCOL's participation in this action plan in terms of national determined contributions. IDCOL has been associated with this task in terms of two aspects. The first one is the estimation of the financing of the climate aspects, and the second one would be the action plan that would be required to determine the NDC in terms of the waste management in the country. So currently, in terms of both these sectors, we have started evaluating all the aspects. And to give you a short update, that would be as per the draft NDC that has been submitted on 31st December, We have actually segregated all those components in terms of we are focusing on the 5 aspects like the industries, then the power sector, then the transport, agriculture, and the waste. So in terms of the power system, power sector, we have segregated the target of the government in terms of the renewable energy installations. That's around 1700 megawatt solar PV that we segregated those that figure into 3 largely potential sectors, that is solar irrigation projects, that is actually a cross-cutting activity that would be actually serve both the agriculture as well as power sector as well. And then we have focused on solar rooftop projects, focusing on the roofs of the industries that we have, especially the RMG and textile industries. Then there would be large chunk of solar power plants, grid-tied large solar parks, as mentioned in the draft master plan of the solar projects in Bangladesh that has been drafted by the SREDA. At the same time, as of now, 250 megawatt of projects in terms of the wind power plant has been under consideration through the power division, and 2 of them have already got the approval. Apart from that, we are also looking into the ICS, improved cook stoves. Around 6 million ICS is planned to be set within the next 10 years. Along with that, the biogas for the household cooking, around 50,000. In terms of industries, we are looking into the energy efficiency and conservation master plan up to 2030, that specific file in terms of getting how much energy efficiency that the country would actually attain during this period of time. And we did IDCOL in a couple of days back did receive a GCF fund in terms of getting energy efficiency in the industries. So we are getting the cost associated with the industry, how much cost would be required to get the energy efficiency plan in action. So we are actually combining these two and trying to find out the financing engagement that would be required to achieve energy efficiency in the industries. In terms of the transport and agriculture and waste, we have in the current week and the previous week, we were in the discussion with the lead expert on the transport sector, and a few of the action plan that the transport sector has been focusing are the electric vehicle. Near about 10,000 electric vehicle would be flying in the next 10 years. And then the infrastructure that would be required. And these two, along with the MRTs and other things, how much financing would be required in terms of those activities to be rationalized. So in the agriculture sector wise as well, we were discussing with the lead expert to actually gather what are the actions plans they are actually thinking of as of now, so that we could actually develop an in-house model beforehand, and so that afterwards, after getting the final figures from the experts from different sectors, we could actually combine those and get a final results accordingly. Alongside, we were also looking into the source of funds. I mean, after getting all the requirement of the funds, from where the sources would be to actually manage this huge chunk of fund that would be required in the next 10 years to actually realize this indice in terms of the 5 sectors. So almost all those aspects that IDCOL is covering are actually on the discussion. However, in terms of the power system and energy efficiency, we have dig down detailed. On the other ones, we are relying on the other lead experts to actually give us the figures in terms of the action plan they are planning, so that we could actually finalize the funding requirement in terms of realizing the total financing in terms of the NDC. So thank you everyone for giving IDCOL as well as me this opportunity to present. And I would like to regret in terms of Mr. Enhancement Pavel, because he was busy in a pre-scheduled meeting. He couldn't attend. So I apologize on his behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Matin, for representing IDCOL, and we are very pleased to have you. Before we go over to our distinguished government representative, I just wanted to apologize on behalf of Dr. Malik Fida Khan, because he told me that he was going out of Dhaka and will fly back either in the morning or possible. But given the weather, maybe he hasn't been able to do that. So my apologies. CGIS holds the contract on behalf of all the consortium members and are coordinating some of the efforts with Tamim Hassan as a full-time backup for us, and we are working together. We have an excellent members from the consortium and are the most distinguished scholars of and eminent power, energy, waste experts from all over the country, particularly modeling and looking at the future. Utpal Bhattacharya, and we have a number of others. So I will not go further into this, just to express my regret on behalf of Dr. Fida Khan. May I now request on behalf of the perspective on NDC from Mr. Sanjay Bhowmic, who is the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So the time is yours now. Then I would request the
Cannot hear. Atiq sir ke shuna cannot hear.
Cannot hear.
Yes.
Sanjay Bhowmic,
Okay.
Is it better now? Can you?
Yes. Okay.
Have you clear? Good. Thank you.
Respected chair of the workshop titled Global NDC Event, distinguished participants, very good afternoon. I convey my sincere appreciation and gratitude to the organizers for organizing such a prestigious event. On behalf of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, I also convey my sincere thanks. And also thanks to the climate experts today present here, Dr. Ainun Nishat sir, Dr. Saleemul, Dr. Atiq Rahman, and also DG Environment for giving their valuable times. Every point should be discussed here today, but as a Joint Secretary of the Ministry, it's essential to mention the actual activities of our ministry. As we also know, Bangladesh submitted its NDC to UNFCCC before the Paris Agreement as the decisions of the COP20 Lima decisions, where we mentioned 5% unconditional and 10% conditional contribution from business as usual level by 2030 in our three major sectors. This is power, industry, and transport. As we know, Article 4.6 of Paris Agreement clearly written that LDC and SIDS countries is not mandatory to submit their NDC. Just they will also communicate their low greenhouse gas emission strategy and plan. But as we know, Bangladesh is a progressive country and its role in climate negotiation is very important. And that's why we submitted our INDC in 2015. And then to implement activities under the Bangladesh NDC, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change has prepared sectoral roadmap and action plan for implementing Bangladesh NDC in transport, power and industry sector in 2018. Bangladesh also submitted INC, Initial National Communication 2002, second 2012, and finally third National Communication in 2018, and now preparing biannual update reports for estimating our GHG inventory. According to Article 4.9 Paris Agreement, each country needs to submit enhanced NDC after every 5 years, and accordingly Bangladesh has taken initiative to submit updated NDC. Bangladesh is accomplishing the review and update of NDC with the financial and technical support of UNDP, which has appointed a consortium for performing the gigantic task. The consortium involves Brac, C3R, BCAS, ICCCAD, and CGIS. Eminent climate experts like Dr. Ainun, Dr. Atiq Rahman, Dr. Saleemul, and Fida A.K.M are now working on this. For accomplishing the task of NDC, review of upgradation, we have formed an interministerial advisory committee with the Honorable Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Chair, and also two interministerial technical working group had been formed with the additional Secretary Climate Change one and another one, Director General Environment, DG Environment as a chair, for extending technical support to the advisory committee and also consortium team. As we know, December 31, 2020 was the last date of submitting the revised and updated NDC. We have prepared our interim NDC and submitted it to UNFCCC. The Executive Secretary of the UNFCCC, Ms. Patricia Spunisa, has sent an appreciation letter to the Honorable Minister, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change for submitting updated NDC in due time. In our updated NDC, interim NDC, we mainly included our activities we had been accomplished after submission of NDC in 2015, and also gave priority to our future programs, plans, and policies that had been undertaken for reducing emissions by expanding renewable sources, low carbon development, and energy efficient technology. As the chair of Climate Vulnerable Forum, Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, asked all other countries, parties to submit their updated and ambitious NDCs by 31 December, and also requested developed countries to fulfill their commitment of 100 billion USD from 2020 each year. Submitting an ambitious NDC is a very challenging job for Bangladesh, as we know that our economy is growing very fast, but Bangladesh government is committed to submit an enhanced NDC in accordance with the Paris Agreement decisions. We have decided, we have thinking to include additional sectors like agriculture, forestry, and land use, FLU, and also waste sector, very important sector, along with the existing three sectors like industry, transport, and power sector. As Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries due to the adverse impacts of climate change, in our NDC, we give priority to adaptation also, what earlier Ainun Nishat said. Recently, in celebration of the birth celebration of Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, we have planted 10 million trees across the country. Forest Department undertaken Shupol and some other projects, coastal green belt and afforestation projects, is the sink of carbon dioxide also. We also give priority to protect our nature, conserve ecosystem biodiversity. We are now preparing our NAP, which will be the main document of long-term adaptation projects. And as we know, our Bangladesh Climate Change Strategy Action Plan is now in the final stage for updating. And before going to my last part, there is a question in the chat box written somebody that, is there any analysis or progress of NDC from 2016? The question is that the consortium team, we formed this, that they will review what our actual status now from 2015, and then they will give us that our achievement, we may 5%, 10%, anything, but they will review first, they will assess our progress of NDC that we submitted in 2015. This is my answer of this question. And finally, I again thanks to the organizer for inviting me today here in this valuable event. Thank you all. Thank you all again.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjay Bhowmic. I think you made an excellent presentation in showing that how the government of Bangladesh, Ministry of Environment, Forest, and all other agencies through its advisory committee, which is very powerful and very effective. We are proud to be part as a consortium, working with the government, working together under the chairman and leadership of the Secretary, Minister of Environment and Forest, Climate Change. It has been our own excellent experience and very good collaboration going on. And the point that made last is the progress has been evaluated. There will be a scenario, those will be set in, and we'll be looking at it. But one of the principal objectives is to have consensus and understanding, just not in the consortium, but consortium, all government agencies, and many of the government agencies have been eager to give us the data and the information that is required. With those few words, may I now request our Director General, Ministry of Environment and Forest, Dr. A.K.M. Rafique Ahammed, to make his deliberation. We have time limitation, but that is what we'd like you to hear from you. Great pleasure that you're here.
Thank you. I'll be brief. Respected chair of the session, distinguished experts and panelists, eminent personalities, and respected colleagues. Good evening. It's my real pleasure being here today in this important session with all these experts and personalities. Those are actually contributing a lot to the climate change negotiation and many research activities, and sometimes guiding us and helping us and being with us. So we have heard, we have seen the background information from Dr. Atiq Rahman, and then Nishat sir explained the global scenario as well as national scenario. And one thing most importantly, he mentioned the linkage between mitigation and adaptation. And after that, we have seen the presentation of Brac and IDCOL and their involvement and their role, their programs. And finally, our Joint Secretary, Mr. Sanjay, he explained the government position and government actions and what are the future activities. So this is the overall discussion, but I don't like to repeat what I think that the importance of NDC. Yes, we know this is mandated under the Paris Agreement, and why it is important. It is we have a global goal, and to achieve that global goal, we need to know the position where we are and how much you have achieved and what is the trend and where you want to go. So for this, NDC is there, and NDC also establishes some transparency mechanism, and it will everybody will know what is everybody is doing. So and everybody will know what is their contribution and how they are going to further contribute. So this is the importance. And when we talk about the perspectives of NDC, to me, I find that most important perspective is socioeconomic perspective for us. Poverty reduction, development need, employment generation, SDG goals, these are our perspectives. So when you consider NDC updation, all this come to our mind, and then we act accordingly. For example, climate change negotiation and climate activities all over the world now, it includes three major stakeholders or three platforms. One is science, another one is economics, and then last one is politics. So this is the combination of science, economics, and policy and politics. So all this actually shape our national position and international position. We can't avoid them. This is the reality. And the Bangladesh government, from the very beginning, we are very sincere. Our experts, our researchers, they are very committed, and they have shown their ability nationally and internationally, and all this is already established and widely recognized. So Bangladesh is far ahead of many other countries. But when we consider our revision or enhanced NDC, we have to understand some of our national situations. And Nishat sir, previously, he was explaining very nicely, and I am very convinced, and I actually accept his opinion in this case. So at the moment, our greenhouse gas contribution is very insignificant, and it is well below the average contribution of developing countries. But we are the innocent victim, and the climate change affects actually almost all aspects of our lives and livelihoods. And it puts more than 30 million people under threat of displacement. Our food security, our water security, energy security. So, and we're spending on an average 2 billion annually to face the adversities of climate change. So this is our scenario. And the very first two goals of SDG is zero hunger, zero poverty. So if we achieve goal 13, And if we don't achieve goal 1 and 2, what will happen? So we have to achieve actually all. And the Paris Agreement takes everybody on board. So, and the responsibility, yes, everybody has responsibility. And our responsibility is there. But what is our priority? Our priority, Nishat sir rightly mentioned, our priority is adaptation. But at the same time, we will get benefit of adaptation as mitigation benefits. That is, I am very happy that the same experts group, same consortium, they're involved in our NEP preparation, and some of them are again involved in the NDC revision. So this expert pool, they have their wonderful combination. I hope that we can share their experience and we'll try to establish some linkage between our NDC and our NEP, because NEP is also at the same time it's going on. And we have some, while our joint secretary was mentioning that what we have done and what are we going to do. Actually, at the moment, we have some opportunity. Like now, global scenario will change. We are hopeful that already Professor Saleemul mentioned the US presidency will make some change globally, and it will encourage everybody. We can hope that the present situation, and so we will find some qualitative changes for mitigation and for also resource mobilization, we hope. And what is our potential in our country? Our country, we have seen that we had consultations a few months ago with different ministries, and everybody actually is concerned. And all these ministries, they actually don't know how to assess. That is the problem. But they know that they made some progress, and they reported some progress. Now, systematically, our expert, this team, they will make analysis, they will make assessment. And after that, we'll be able to know where we stand now at the moment and what is our potential sectors in the future. We have heard that, yes, we previously worked on 3 main sectors, major sectors, and additionally, we are considering 2 more. One is AFALO, forestry and agriculture, and waste, yes. But for agriculture, the agriculture ministry is very cautious, and they're very concerned about the food security of the country, and we agree that. But again, at the same time, we are telling that, yes, we have some mechanization. This is the government priority area, mechanization and modernization of agriculture, and it will bring some positive result. At the same time, the irrigation, solar irrigation, it will bring some mitigation benefits. So agriculture, from the agriculture sector, where we are very cautious, at the same time, we'll get some benefits. And for the waste sector, yes, at the moment, the local government division already they approved a project for incineration and power generation, and from this we hope that it will make some significant changes. And we have now the ultra supercritical technology of coal, and this technology will be used and are being used in our power generation. So these are our potential areas. And clean development mechanisms, we have seen so many projects implemented previously, we implemented previously, and some are in the pipeline, and it gives some potential of our conditional mitigation. And we have some other sector like industrial sector, iron and steel industry. There are plenty areas for clean technology and for modern technology. For example, efficient electronic arc furnace, it will reduce emission, LEED certified green buildings. And we know that we have some LEED certified RMG sectors, and we are focusing on them. And finally, and in future, we'll get more green industries, especially in RMG sector. And we are going for energy efficiency and energy conservation. And another in global instrument, that is the Montreal Protocol. It adopted Kigali Amendment. Under the Kigali Amendment, we'll have some emission reduction potential for refrigeration and air conditioning sector and transport sector. At the moment, this is a polluting sector, and modernization of transport sector, and especially BRT, MRT, and our communication system. Our highways will be 4 lanes. You can avoid traffic jam. Our Padda bridge will be there, and more bridges and communication facilities will be there, and it will reduce our emissions. So we have more potentials of reducing emissions, but we'll do, and we are committed to point out or committed to explore the areas, and our experts will decide. We are the policymaker, and our experts, we are confident that our experts will have the potential to identify the specific right and potential areas. They will guide us, and we'll be happy to discuss, and we'll be happy to have dialogue with them, and the government will take the right decision. I'm hopeful, and we are always with you. You are always with us, and we belong to the same boat. We belong to the same forum. So let us work together, and I hope this type of discussion and conversation will continue. And with this few words, and thanking you all, I would like to conclude here, because Sanjay explained detailed program of the government, so I did not repeat. Thank you very much, sir, for inviting me, and for including in your team, and let us work together, and look forward to have a better result, and we'll have an updated NDC with an enhanced ambition. I also believe that, because I think there is a proverb in Bangla, Apuni achuri karma apuri dharma. If we ask anyone to do something, we have to do it by myself at first, then we can ask some others. That is true, and that is what we'll do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. You have taken the right perspective of showing where the opportunities lie. And that would be a spirit and guidance to the consortium in the days forward of looking at it. As you know that we are already outlined many of these and have interacted with you in the government as the Department of Environment and the ministry through the secretary, the additional secretary in charge, and additional secretary on climate, and joint secretary Mr. Bhowmic. So we got an excellent perspective of how governments need working together. We have already, this advisory committee has been helping us to work together. With respect to time, we have done reasonably well. If I have got 8 minutes, but I will just talk for 6 minutes and hopefully not tax your patience. The point about national determined contribution, as we said, it's our moral obligation for planetary action. It is our obligation as a nation. Bangladesh has been a leader in adaptation. As you know, Ban Ki-moon had said that Bangladesh is our teacher of adaptation. So Bangladesh has been there. The reason for that success is our early understanding of the science of it. When we started adaptation, the adaptation science was not that developed. But we helped through examples, taking people's perspective, particularly putting the people forward. It's greenhouse gas, nature, systems, and human beings. This is the linkage through which this system has been operating. Sadly, the outcome or the bad effects are through the higher temperature and extreme climatic event. As you know, in 2020, between April and August, we had 4 consecutive floods. So this type of extreme events has impacted our people badly. This is also has been attributed to external climate change induced by higher temperature and other effects, but it's actually shifting through the system of rainfall, monsoon, and all the other mixed system of our regional rainfall that came from Meghalaya, Arunachal, Nepal, Bhutan, China, all that coming through the three river system. So we are connected system, atmosphere to water, water to people, people to communities, and our productivity, as has been demonstrated in terms of agriculture that was highlighted. Now we have to look into agriculture. So three sectors we have been looking at historically, and there was a commitment of 5% from our 2011 level. Now we are hoping forward with a baseline that we'll be thinking what to do with the government. These discussions have started, and how we'll go forward. How do we estimate? There has to be lot of data requirement, and we have requested many of the government offices and many of the departments and ministries, and they have also asked us to give the portfolio in matrix what we need from them, and they would be helpful. So it is this combination of working together between the government, the consortium, the people, the whole climate change community, as it is with the scientific and the research community. So we are moving forward. We had to organize this meeting within a very short time, because initially we didn't think that we will bring it to Gobeshona, but an opportunity came and the right sort of position, because in the afternoon, many of our people are more available. So we thought we'll get and I have to thank Saleem and Riaz for making the time available to us. And over that, I have to thank all our distinguished panelists, all our members who have joined us. Many across the world are listening to this and getting a perspective where it is just not, we are not only citizens of Bangladesh, we are global citizens. And as rightly mentioned by Saleem and Dr. Rafique, that US position would be shifting. This will give a signal to the rich countries to do something, because they will only do it if it is in their economic interest. As Dr. Rafique rightly said, we will only do it if it's our sustainable development interest. We will not go ahead and do something which will be affecting our future and future potential. Bangladeshi people are still in the need of energy. There is no question about it. Many of our people, there are about 20% of our population in the rural, remote areas have not even got up on a motorized vehicle, let alone having an air conditioner, let alone having a luxury refrigerator in every house. So, because those are effective system of being efficient in protecting our food, our system, our livelihood. So some things we will have to encourage. So, and becoming a rapidly industrialized or a economically developed country by 2041, which is our vision, to do that will need energy. But our baseline is so low that we are not in the competition of threatening the planetary system. It is often said that countries, LDCs like Bangladesh and those who are coming out, who will never cross as a moral position the average of the global average of per capita. So we will try and live below global average per capita. If that is the baseline, we have a long way to go still. So we are one of the poorest and most vulnerable countries with respect to climate change impact. And as I was mentioned about this flood, just one anecdote, there was a lady with whom we work regularly. I called her, Appa, you know, how are you taking care of COVID and the coronavirus? And she said, for 4 months, I am living between my knee-deep water and waist-deep water. What are you talking about? Coronavirus, I have no time. I cannot afford the luxury of coronavirus. So they are in a real bind of climate extreme events affecting them, but we have to reduce that. And one of the main purpose of NDCs is to, by demonstration, help, but encourage the big emitters. And many of them are making better commitment. The European Union has already made commitment by 2050 to try and reduce significantly, but to get it to optimal system. And that is the subject of technology, technological development that we'll have to see, and we'll have to contribute to it. We have already done, as has been mentioned, the solar photovoltaic system on household system, in water system. Not only that, our wind energy may be coming in the future and all those, but nonetheless, we cannot and must not cross and be luxurious in a way. So we have to plan our cities and Bangladesh urban rural systems of continuum. When today 1/3 or quarter of Dhaka city are moved into the rural area in the COVID world. So those connections has to be understood, and we have to grow city and villages together. As government gives the slogan, Amar Shahar, Amar Gram, it's for everybody's responsibility to make sure all the citizens get their food safety, safe drinking water, safe food, an adequate amount of nutrition, as well as energy security and livelihood security, employment security. Those will come, and these renewable energy systems are likely to create a lot of employment, new employment in the village areas and across the country. So without saying much, I have to thank all my partner organizations for giving their time and making themselves available, the leadership, and also many of the other people who have done the hard work behind the scene and making sure this has happened. Without much ado, we are just 12, 13 minutes after the time. So if I have everybody's permission, may I bring the meeting to a close?
Dr. Rahman, can I come in for a minute?
Yes, please.
Reza here, I'm from the organizing end. So we have extended the time and we have a few more questions in the Q&A. If you'd like to extend the session for a couple of minutes and answer the questions from the panelists, we would be more than happy to extend the time. Just wanted to let you know.
Is that little extension of, let's say 5 minutes extension?
Okay, I think that's
acceptable to everyone. I would request my colleague
for calling me repeatedly.
I have a comment.
Yes, please.
I've gone through the questions.
Yes, if you do that, that would be great.
Question. One is by an anonymous person. We don't know who is he or who is she. But all other questions are submitted by internal people, officers and staff of BCAS. I would like to ask them the question back. What is your answer? Because you are part of the consortium. Thank you very much. The question person who has put the question should give us the answer because he or she is a member of this consortium. Thank you.
Okay, that's a fair position to have. Dr. Asaduzzahman also had a point, I think, at certain time. Asad Bhai, are you there? You wanted to pick up a question or not? Okay, if that is the position, then shall we bring the meeting to a close? Is that the general opinion of the meeting? Why don't we?
Thank you, sir. Sir, let us say, sir, goodbye.
Yeah, because I think we have now it's 16 minutes past 5 and we have taken the 2 minutes additional. Thank you to organizer Razi and all the others for giving us this opportunity and helping us with all the other logistics for running this big organization. Let's remember that Gobeshona is an organization of all of us. We are the members of Gobeshona. We are the ones, we have all worked together to make it a success, led by ICCCAD and organized the last several years, 6 years. We have been doing it. This year had to be virtual and global at the same time. So thank you very much. Thanking all the organizers of Gobeshona, all the hard workers and my colleagues and the government representative, particularly the Joint Secretary, Mr. Bhowmic, and the DGDEO, Dr. Rafique Ahammed. With thanks to all my friends and all the participants, those who have organized, will probably get a list and communicate. Thank you very much. All the best. Khuda Hafiz. Have a good day and have a better weather tomorrow. Thank you.